Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. The campus king Jacob once said that when we graduate we'll break up. Our goodbye kiss was painfully serious. I held tightly to Jacob's restless hand and whispered, "Focus. This is the last time." The desire in his eyes slowly faded. I leaned in until our lips almost touched, the corner of my mouth curling as I repeated his own words softly. "After graduation we break up. I'll keep my promise." At the farewell party, Jacob's face stayed dark the entire evening. His friends tried to cheer him up. "Come on, man," one said. "She's just playing hard to get. She's mad because you're the one who said you'd break up after graduation. Just talk to her. She'll come around." Later that night, Jacob stood outside the old front door of my house on Maple Street, dialing my number. All he got was a cold automated voice. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." The summer after our college entrance exams, the sky was bright and the wind was soft, but the air was still thick with heat. Our breathing was uneven, and the quiet sound of a swallow between us only made the moment feel hotter. I caught Jacob's wandering hand and whispered, "No." He reluctantly pulled back, helping me straighten my clothes, but his teeth still pressed against my shoulder, biting down slightly. "Sooner or later," he murmured, "you'll be mine." I cupped his face and kissed him again. "It's a beautiful dream," I said softly. "Just a little longer and then we'll break up." Jacob looked at me, doubt flickering in his eyes. Those peach blossom eyes that were once full of affection had turned cold. I leaned in again, my lips brushing his as I smiled faintly. "After graduation we break up," I whispered. "I'll never go back on my word." Jacob and I got together almost by accident. Back when we were still strangers, he brushed past me in the hallway and slipped a small bunch of flowers into my hands. A note was clipped to it. "To Lily, my one and only bit of romance. Love, Jacob." At the time it seemed like a random act. He could have handed those flowers to anyone walking by. Just happened to be me. That night after class I stood nervously outside his homeroom, peeking inside. Jacob wore a black down jacket over his uniform, unzipped, his hands tucked in his pockets, the perfect picture of someone saying, "Stay away." Behind him, one of his friends, a little chubby and out of breath, jogged after him. "Wait up, boss," he called as Jacob walked out through the back door. I stepped in front of him, holding the bouquet he'd given me earlier that day. Jacob frowned slightly and tapped my forehead like he was checking if I had a fever. I rubbed the spot and looked up at him, smiling as if showing off a treasure. "Jacob," I said, "I've decided. I'll say yes." He blinked. "Say yes to what?" "To being your girlfriend," I said brightly, holding up the note. "My name's Lily. See, you wrote 'love you' right here." Jacob furrowed his brow, took the card from me, glanced at it, then tore it neatly in half and tossed it into the trash can beside the back door. When he looked back at me, his voice was calm but unreadable. "Lily, you're that straight-A student everyone talks about, right?" I guess so," I mumbled. He tilted his head slightly, the light behind him casting shadows over his face, though every sharp line still stood out clearly. "All right then," he said, his tone cool. "Let's call it a graduation romance. We break up when school's over. Want to try?" I hesitated only for a moment before replying. "Sure, I'll try." My thoughts lingered on Jacob's lips. I wanted to kiss him again, but he dodged, leaning against the wall. His hand tightened around my waist, his gaze unwavering. "I said that before," he muttered. "But now I've changed my mind." "Too bad," I said softly. "Changing your mind doesn't count." He took a deep breath, ready to say something when someone knocked on the door. "Boss," a muffled voice came from outside. It was Ethan. "You done yet? Everyone's already here." Jacob cursed under his breath, yanked the door open and walked out. I followed quietly. He looked annoyed from being interrupted. Ethan, realizing he'd probably ruined his boss's mood, quickly apologized. "Sorry, man. They just kept asking where you were, told me to call you, so I came. I mean, it's not like you had to rush right now. You've got all the time in the world after graduation, right?" Jacob turned his head, his dark eyes sweeping over me. Ethan gestured for me to say something to calm him down. I just shrugged and said, "We broke up. Breaking up after graduation. That's what he said himself. Yeah, you were there too, someone added. There were about 10 of us sitting in a circle, all close friends from our class. The others were in the next room celebrating in their own way. Since graduation had come, everyone was in high spirits. A few of the guys liked to show off, holding cigarettes between their fingers like pros, no longer bothering to pretend to be well-behaved students. Ethan, who had just recovered from the awkward moment earlier, pulled out the chair next to me and motioned for Jacob to sit down. Then he said to him with a grin, "She's just playing hard to get, man. Still mad about you saying you break up after graduation. Everyone can tell how much she likes you. Just say a few sweet words and she'll calm down." Jacob's expression finally softened a little. Once everyone had arrived, we stood up to raise our glasses. Joy lit up every face. We were celebrating graduation, full of hope for the future and just a touch of sadness about parting ways. Our class president gave a little speech. "Here's to all of us. May our future shine bright. And when we return, may we still be the same boys and girls we are today." Everyone cheered together. Happy graduation. Then we sat down again, but it wasn't long before Lucas, the class's self-proclaimed gossip prince, suddenly jumped up and waved his hand. "Hey, I've got news. Anyone want the scoop?" Seeing that mischievous grin, we knew whatever he had was both fresh and juicy. "Come on, spill it." "I heard that Brian from class 2 and Anna have gotten engaged." "What? That Brian and Anna, the Romeo and Juliet of our school?" "Yep, those two. Childhood sweethearts. Perfect match. Took their exams and then got engaged right after." The room erupted with laughter and surprise. "Wow. And I've got another one," Lucas continued. "This one's good news for all you single folks here." Everyone's ears perked up immediately. The beauty of class 9, Sophie, just broke up with her boyfriend from class 10. So whoever's interested, shoot your shot. Almost instinctively, I glanced toward Jacob. He was staring straight at me, expressionless, not a trace of emotion showing. "I heard that Sophie's pretty high maintenance," someone snorted. "She only wears designer stuff. Clothes, shoes, bags, all luxury brands. No normal guy could afford to keep up with her." "High school love stories," another said with a laugh. "Some make it to marriage, some end in heartbreak." Lucas suddenly turned toward the only couple sitting at the table, us. "So Jacob and Lily," he teased. "Are you two in it for the long run? Going to end up married someday? Even the homeroom teacher couldn't separate you two back in school. Back then we really were inseparable, young, naive, and unashamed of our love." That day had been Jacob's birthday. His friends had thrown him a party. As the son of one of the biggest local business owners, Jacob's family was well off, and his friends reflected that same easy privilege. I, on the other hand, came from a broken home. Parents divorced and indifferent, leaving me an old house and sending just enough money each month to get by. Beyond that, I had nothing. As I watched Jacob's friends give him expensive gifts, limited edition watches, imported gadgets, things far beyond what I could ever afford, I glanced at the small package in my bag and suddenly felt self-conscious. Then someone called out teasingly, "Hey Lily, what did you get Jacob for his birthday? Come on, don't keep it a secret. Show us." Jacob rested his chin on my shoulder, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Yeah, what did you get me? Let's see if your gift can blow everyone away." The table burst into playful shouts, teasing us. All eyes turned toward me. My hands felt clammy as I leaned closer to whisper, "It's not worth much." Jacob's breath brushed against my ear, his voice low and warm. "If it's from you," he said, "it's priceless." My face went hot instantly. After hesitating for a moment, I took out a small picture frame, a handmade bead mosaic in Jacob's likeness. I held it out to him nervously. I did it all myself, one bead at a time. Jacob's eyes softened, filled with genuine fondness as he looked at it. His friends, however, seemed unimpressed now that the excitement had died down. One of them smirked. "That's it? That's the big surprise." I froze for a second, then smiled. "Of course not. That's just the appetizer. The real gift is still coming. Something one of a kind just for Jacob. Something the rich can't buy no matter how much money they throw at it," I said. Everyone immediately perked up. "I knew it." Ethan laughed. "Lily still got another trick up her sleeve. Come on, what is it?" I uncapped my lipstick, gently ran it over my lips and pressed them together. Then I smiled and said clearly, "A kiss from the top student of Westbridge High." With that, I stepped forward, sat down on Jacob's lap, lifted his face and kissed him. The room erupted in cheers, claps, and whistles. Jacob, startled at first, quickly gave in. When the kiss ended, the corner of his lips stayed curled in that faint smirk of his. The whole night, I realized later, that smile never once faded. "Damn, Lily. You really are unbeatable. That's something money can't buy," someone called out. "Yeah, Lily, how about giving me one too?" Another guy joked, puckering his lips as he leaned toward me. Jacob kicked the guy's chair, sending him stumbling backward. Laughter broke out again. Someone eventually tattled to our homeroom teacher about the whole thing. But when he saw that my exam results still ranked first in the entire grade, and I told him I knew my limits, that I wouldn't let romance affect my studies, he didn't press further. Now back at the graduation party, Lucas, our gossip prince, asked me teasingly, "So Lily, what about you two? Still together?" I smiled faintly. "We broke up." The table went quiet for a second, everyone staring at me in shock. "When did that happen? How come none of us knew?" "Just now," I said calmly. Jacob's brows furrowed slightly. His voice was low when he called my name. "Lily." I stood up and looked around at the familiar faces surrounding me. Faces that somehow seemed older and more mature than they had just the night before. Jacob and I had agreed long ago that we break up after graduation. Some relationships end right where they're supposed to. I lifted my glass toward him. "Thank you, Jacob, for taking care of me and for bringing a bit of color into my otherwise dull life." I touched my glass lightly against his, leaned forward and smiled. "Thank you and goodbye." Jacob leaned back in his chair, his expression calm and distant. He didn't raise his glass, just watched me with unreadable eyes, as if everything I said had been part of a one-woman performance. I finished my drink and sat down again. He casually emptied his own glass without a word. The others began whispering immediately. Why did they break up? I didn't answer, so they just kept speculating right in front of me. I heard, "Lily's heading to North City for college," someone said. "Well, of course," another chimed in. "Our genius Lily's definitely going to one of the top universities in the country." "Then it's obvious, isn't it?" a guy added. "Jacob's staying here in South City to take over the family business. Must be the long-distance thing." I pressed my lips together but stayed quiet. It wasn't just the distance. We both knew that. "Exactly," another said. "Lily's going to be busy with research in the future, and Jake will be running a company. Different worlds. They'd never have time for each other, right, Lily?" From the corner of my eye, I saw Jacob's expression darken. I took a sip of water, smiled faintly and said, "Some relationships end where they should. It's like picking a flower. You do it when it's at its most beautiful." One of the guys raised his glass. "Then here's to you, Lily. Wishing you all the best." I lifted my glass to clink his, but before I could, Jacob's hand suddenly intercepted, blocking mine. I didn't say a word. I wasn't dead, just quiet. I reached for my glass again, and just then the door swung open. Our class vice president walked in with a few people, his arm draped casually over a friend's shoulder. He was always good at socializing and quickly started introducing the newcomers. "Hey everyone," he said. "This is Charles Shun, top student from Eastwood High. Met him by chance tonight. Thought I'd introduce him so we can all make new friends." Charles Shun was famous not just for his perfect grades, but for his refined, almost aristocratic demeanor, and more importantly, rumor had it that his father was a high-ranking government official. The room buzzed immediately. Some people greeted him politely, others started talking about mutual classmates from Eastwood, and a few were already asking for his WeChat. I watched quietly, realizing how quickly people could read the room, how easily they adjusted. It struck me that maybe all this time I was the only one still loud and reckless, shouting nonsense from the bleachers like some fool who hadn't yet learned how the world worked. Then Charles noticed me. His eyes lit up and he walked straight over. "Lily," he said, his tone carrying a hint of reproach. "Why didn't you reply to my messages?" Everyone's eyes turned toward me at once and my face flushed crimson. "Oh, I must have missed it," I stammered. Charles smiled politely. "Then check again and reply to me." "All right." Before I could answer, Jacob's voice came from right behind me, low and close. He was standing so near that I could feel his breath against my neck. Sure thing, he said evenly. Charles blinked, finally noticing him. And this is? Jacob slipped his arm around my shoulders, his tone flat but possessive. Her boyfriend. Charles hesitated for a moment, his eyes flicking between us. Boyfriend, huh? Not bad. Jacob's smile was sharp and cold. Good enough. After Charles walked away, I pulled Jacob's arm off me, irritation flaring. What the hell was that for? I demanded quietly. We broke up, remember? Jacob towered over me, looking down, his jaw tightening. You broke up with me for him, didn't you? Don't talk nonsense, I snapped. How long have you known him? Why didn't I know about this? Since junior year, I said. During the physics Olympiad. I didn't even know you back then. So that's your type, huh? He muttered. Smart guys. You two have common interests. Same school, same future. Perfect fit. Jacob, I said, lowering my voice. Charles only asked if I'd be interested in joining an artificial intelligence research project at Capital University. He knows a professor who can recommend me. It's not what you think. It's nothing like that. Stop making things up. Under the table, I tried to pry his hand off mine, but his grip only tightened. It wasn't until Sophie, the school's beauty queen, walked in that he finally let go. No one expected her to show up in our private room. Hardly anyone here had ever even spoken to her before. Sophie wore a short, pale yellow dress that flared at the waist. She stood at the doorway with a bright, dazzling smile. Tall and elegant, her long white legs seemed to glow under the light. Her two low ponytails and wide, shimmering eyes made her look like she had just stepped out of a painting. I'm looking for someone, she said, her gaze sweeping across the room until it landed right on us. I'm looking for Jacob. Then she walked straight toward him. I instinctively stepped aside to make room. Jacob glanced at me once, but his attention quickly shifted to Sophie, who had already stopped in front of him. As I turned to leave, I heard her sweet, airy voice behind me. I broke up with Jacob. When I got home, I started packing immediately. My flight was at 1 o'clock in the morning. After finishing up, I carried my suitcase downstairs. The father of one of my classmates, who worked as a rideshare driver, was already waiting to take me to the airport. The alley that led from my old apartment to the main gate of the complex was long and dark, and I didn't dare walk it alone. Thankfully, he'd agreed to this late-night ride. Why the rush? He asked as he helped me load my bag. You just finished your exams, and you're already leaving town. Yes, I said, forcing a small smile. I managed to get a last-minute discount ticket. It was really cheap. Got a return ticket yet? If it's another midnight flight, call me. I'll come get you. I probably won't be coming back anytime soon, I said softly. Well, he said kindly, if you ever do, you know who to call. Thank you, sir. When I got into the car, I opened my call log. There were more than 10 missed calls from Jacob. Our chat showed the same. His chat window flashing with 99 unread messages. At first, his texts were short. Where are you? Where did you go? When are you coming back? Then they got longer. I came to find you, but you're not here. You're not in the bathroom either. You're not running off with Charles, are you? Give me 10 minutes to come get you. If you're not back by then, I swear I'll. Then why aren't you picking up? I talked to Charles. He said he hasn't seen you. Where did you go? Answer me. Where are you? Your class rep said you went home. Did you really go home? I'm heading there now. Wait for me. I'll be there in half an hour. I'm here. Open the door. After that, his messages turned into voice notes, the kind that sounded desperate and uneven. His tone cracking between anger and fear. Lily, where are you? Please answer me. Lily, say something. Let's talk. Okay. Lily, please talk to me. Say something. Anything. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed slowly. We've already broken up. Don't look for your ex-girlfriend anymore. I wish you all the best. Then I hesitated and deleted it. I typed again. I've left South City. Don't look for me anymore. Goodbye. Still not satisfied, I erased that too. Finally, I wrote one last line. I'm leaving now, Jacob. Goodbye. I deleted the message again. I honestly didn't know what to say anymore. Exiting our chat, I opened my Moments feed. There, our English class rep Rachel Tran had just posted a picture. Sophie was pinning Jacob against the wall. In the photo, he tilted his head with that reckless grin while she looked up at him with a sweet, focused gaze. The caption read, "Even comic book couples aren't this perfect." Typical Rachel. She'd always loved comparing English scores with me, treating me like her rival, and seemed to enjoy doing anything that would get under my skin. Under the post, dozens of people had already hit like. Wow, such a beautiful couple. Perfect match. But a few commented cautiously, wait, wasn't Jacob dating Lily? This isn't cool to post. Rachel replied to each of them one by one. They broke up, didn't you know? That comment section exploded almost instantly. For real, they actually broke up. Not surprised, honestly. They never really fit anyway. Top student and bad boy. Fun for a while, but it never lasts. Different worlds, no common ground. Sooner or later, it was bound to fall apart. Sophie and Jacob, though, now that's a couple worth shipping. Two perfect faces together. Can you even imagine how beautiful their kids would be someday? Right. The school's top guy completely tamed by the beauty queen like a puppy at her feet. To be fair, the two of them in that picture did look striking together. I'd always been proud of Jacob's looks. Tall, sharp features, that quiet intensity when he stood under the streetlights. Those moments were etched into my heart. But this time the person he was looking at wasn't me anymore. My phone kept buzzing. Jacob's name flashed on the screen again and again. I ignored it until the boarding announcement echoed over the airport speakers. Just before I stepped into the gate, I answered. His voice came through immediately, full of relief, as if he'd been holding his breath for hours. Lily. Finally, he picked up. Where are you? I asked. I'm right in front of your house. When are you coming back? I stayed silent, listening. Before I could speak, another boarding call echoed overhead. You're at the airport, he realized, his tone tightening. Where are you going? I'll come find you right now. He sounded flustered, speaking too fast, his words tumbling over each other. Lily, I couldn't find you anywhere. It's driving me crazy. I had a few drinks. Maybe too many. My head's spinning. What medicine did you give me last time? Give me another one, will you? My head hurts again. You're the only one who can make it stop, right? All I could hear was his voice rambling on, mixed with footsteps. The sound of him running downstairs, a car door slamming, and an engine starting. He was on his way to the airport. Finally, I couldn't hold back anymore. Jacob, I said quietly. We've already broken up. That's it. I'm about to board my flight. His voice softened instantly. Lily, when are you coming back? I'll pick you up. I'm not coming back. That's impossible, he said, his tone breaking. Your home's still here. It's just an empty house now, I said calmly. That doesn't make it a home. I already put it up for sale through an agent. On the other end, I could hear his breathing, heavy, uneven, almost choking. I could picture him perfectly then, disheveled, eyes red, standing alone in front of my darkened doorway. Lily, he rasped. Did you ever love me? And you, Jacob, I whispered. Did you ever love me? I did, he said hoarsely. God, I loved you so much. So did I said softly. Once. His voice cracked, forced out from deep in his throat, trembling with desperation. Lily, please don't leave me. Don't do this. I have to, Jacob. Why? Just because of what I said, the stupid breakup after graduation thing. I didn't mean it. I can't get used to being without you. You said the same thing before, I reminded him. You told me you couldn't get used to walking me home every night, but you did. You got used to it. He was silent for a moment, then his voice came out low and pained. So what, Lily? Was I just someone to walk you home? Now that school's over, I'm disposable. If that's what you think, I said, my throat tightening, then sure, think that. I'm boarding now, Jacob. Goodbye. I repeated. And I mean it this time. After hanging up, I opened my Moments feed again. Rachel's post, the picture of Jacob and Sophie, was gone, deleted without a trace. I stared at the blank screen for a while, memories washing over me. I remembered how it all began, how I'd gone to Jacob first, the one who suggested a graduation romance. I had agreed honestly because I just wanted someone to walk me home at night. When I made that request, something flickered in his eyes, confusion, maybe disbelief. I'd hurried to explain. We're not even in the same class, I told him once. We should make time to actually get to know each other, right? I'm busy with exam prep most of the time, so the only chance I get is when I'm heading home after school. Jacob had asked something that even he didn't seem to believe himself. So, do you like me? Yes. Why? Because you're handsome. The first time Jacob walked me home, just before we reached the small convenience store in the alley, I grabbed his hand. He instinctively tried to pull away, but I held on tighter, taking the lead. We're dating, right? You won't even let me hold your hand. Jacob let out an exasperated laugh. Fine, hold it however you want. My palms were slick with nervous sweat. That's when I saw Mr. Lee, the owner of the corner store, sitting by the window in a red tank top, a greasy smile spreading across his wrinkled face. Well, well, he crooned. Lily's got herself a boyfriend now, huh? Just the sound of his voice made my stomach twist. The thought of his rough fingers ever touching me made me feel sick. Instinctively, I froze. That disgusting old man had always given me the creeps. But then I looked up at Jacob, tall, broad-shouldered, his presence steady beside me. And for the first time I didn't feel afraid. Yes, I said, straightening up. He's my boyfriend, Jacob. Jacob must have noticed how tense I was. His expression darkened as he threw Mr. Lee a glare sharp enough to make him shrink back in silence. He didn't ask me anything after that, just tugged me gently closer by the shoulder. From then on, Jacob took it upon himself to act like my bodyguard, always walking me home. Want me to pick you up in the morning too? He'd ask. No need, I told him. That creep never wakes up early anyway. Still, every morning when I reached the entrance of our apartment complex, I'd see Jacob leaning lazily against the walnut tree, breakfast in hand, waiting. It was hard to imagine that those eyes, the same eyes that usually looked at everything with indifference, could hold so much warmth when they looked at me. On our walks to school, sunlight would spill across the quiet streets. Yet what truly warmed me wasn't the morning sun. It was something soft and glowing deep inside my chest. Those days, walking to and from school with Jacob, I felt a sense of calm I'd never known before. It was like we were in love, yet somehow also not. We both knew our graduation romance had an expiration date. And still, facing him every day, that flawless face, that careless charm, I couldn't help but fall deeper. By the first mock exam of senior year, I ranked first in the entire grade. But one offhand comment from him managed to ruin my mood for weeks. He'd given me a Cartier bracelet as a gift. I was thrilled. I took the bus to celebrate by myself, kept taking the box out of my bag just to look at it. Jacob watched me, his lips curving into a faint smile. You like it? I nodded eagerly. I love it. Then he said casually, girls like you all love stuff like this. I froze. Something inside me snapped. Without thinking, I shoved the bracelet against his chest. Girls like me? What's that supposed to mean? Who else are you buying these for? You buy them in bulk or something? Or is this someone else's hand-me-down you decided to give me? Jacob's expression darkened. Lily, what are you talking about? Nothing, I said coldly. I just don't want it. Take it back. His fingers clenched around the small box, the knuckles turning white. His voice dropped, edged with irritation. Are you seriously mad right now? Over this? Maybe I was, but all I could feel was this dull ache. The kind that came when something you didn't want to believe suddenly felt too real. I couldn't stand the thought that he'd given someone else the same gift or worse, handed me something that wasn't meant for me at all. And it wasn't just suspicion. It had happened before. I remembered that day vividly. I'd been sitting behind the school's west building, reviewing vocabulary lists when I overheard voices nearby. Jacob and Sophie were standing under the big tree. They were arguing. Sophie's tone was sharp, but still soft enough to sound spoiled. Can't you be a little more romantic? Jacob's voice came back calm, almost amused. Didn't I give you flowers? That's romantic enough, isn't it? I don't just want flowers, she shot back. Then what do you want? Tell me. I don't want to tell you anything anymore. They went back and forth for a long time until Jacob finally gave in. Fine, I'll transfer you some money. Buy whatever you want, okay? Sophie's voice rose, breaking with anger. Do I look like I need your money? A controlling jerk, I'd thought at the time. After Sophie stormed off, Jacob was left standing alone beneath the tree, still holding that bouquet in his hands. That was the first time I saw him. The first time our paths crossed. I'd noticed the flowers immediately, my eyes lingering on them longer than I meant to. And he must have noticed because he held them out to me without a word. That's when I understood. The word Lily written on the card didn't mean me, Lily Chun. It was Lily from Sophie Lin. He hadn't even changed the name, but I still accepted the flowers. I knew exactly what I was doing when I approached him. I wanted him to walk me home, and somehow I got what I wanted. After Sophie found herself a new romantic boyfriend, Jacob seemed angry, or maybe just prideful, and started dating me. It was supposed to be a simple graduation romance. But when we broke up, I found myself disgusted with how willingly I'd fallen for him, knowing everything I knew. I had fallen too deep. Couldn't go on like that. One afternoon, halfway through our bus ride home, I asked the driver to stop and got off. Later that week, during the break between evening study sessions, I went out for a jog on the school field and ran straight into Jacob. He was waiting, leaning against the bleachers, the usual arrogance in his posture. I had something to do tonight, he said flatly. Ethan will take you home. That's not necessary, I said, stepping around him. But when class ended, Ethan was already waiting by the hallway. I had no choice but to pass by him. Hey Lily, he said sheepishly. Boss told me to take you home. It's fine really. You can go. I stood at the corner of the hall waiting. Our class rep, Kevin Liu, had said he wanted to borrow my notebook, the one with my collection of practice mistakes. I'd left it at home, so he offered to walk with me to grab it. His house was only 2 bus stops away from mine. Seeing me glance around, Ethan frowned. You waiting for someone? I nodded. Ethan's expression changed immediately, as if he just realized something serious. He leaned closer and whispered, Look, I'll tell you the truth. Boss isn't actually busy tonight. He told me to let you know that the bracelet was his idea. He bought it himself just for you, not something left over from someone else. I swear I was there when he bought it. I lowered my head slightly, my voice quiet. Got it. So you're not mad anymore, right? Not mad, I murmured. Just then Kevin came walking up, pushing his bike. Hey, ready to go? He called out, waving. Yeah, I said. See you, Ethan. I climbed onto the back of Kevin's bike, and soon we reached the familiar intersection near my alley. That's where I saw him again. Jacob was leaning against the wall under the streetlight, his brows furrowed. If that moment could have frozen, it would have looked like something straight out of a tragic youth novel. A boy in a dim alley, shadowed light on his face, pain hidden beneath quiet defiance. Jacob slowly lifted his head and saw us turning into the alley. His eyes shifted from indifference to something darker. A storm brewing. When I passed him, he grabbed my wrist tightly. I tried to pull free and stammered. This is Kevin, my class rep. He just came to borrow my notes. Kevin, understanding instantly, said nothing. He simply walked me to the entrance of my apartment building. I'll wait here, he said. Just grab it and come back down. He took the notebook, waved goodbye, and left. As I turned to go back inside, Jacob caught me again, pulling me back toward him. Ethan told you already, he muttered. Don't be mad anymore. I'm not mad, I said quietly. Then what? His voice grew sharp. You found a new guy to walk you home, so now you're done with me. I looked him straight in the eyes. That's not it. I just don't want to be in a relationship anymore. He froze. What does that even mean? It means, I said slowly, that I'm starting to care too much, even about small things like that stupid bouquet you gave me by accident. I keep thinking about it, even though it wasn't meant for me, and every time I remember that, it hurts. I can't keep doing this to myself. Jacob's grip tightened around my wrist. So you can just turn it off like that? One minute you love me, the next you don't. Yes, I said firmly. Because love isn't enough. I love studying. I love solving problems. I love my books, and you hate all of that. You love parties and games, the things I can't stand. We have nothing in common. You were hurt and I was lonely. We just used each other to fill the space. Putting real feelings into that only makes it harder to let go. Jacob said nothing, but I could see the fog clouding his eyes grow thicker. After a long moment he released me, turned and walked away. I thought that was the end of it, that our story would fade out there quietly. But 2 weeks later, behind a bar in the city, I saw a group of guys cornering Jacob, and they were beating him up. I called the police while running straight toward Jacob, throwing myself in front of him. "Stop it! You're going to kill him!" I shouted. The leader of the group grabbed my hair, yanking me back. "Who the hell are you?" "His girlfriend." I wrenched his hand off and snapped. "Get your hands off me." Someone beside him sneered and with a loud rip tore my t-shirt. The fabric split open, revealing the thin camisole underneath. The looks in their eyes instantly turned dark and filthy. I grabbed a rock from the ground and aimed it straight at them. "I already called the cops," I said, my voice trembling but loud. "If anything happens to us, all of you are going to prison." They didn't look afraid at all. The leader smirked and tugged at my shirt again. Another rip. "You trying to scare me? I don't give a damn about my life, but if I drag a little honor student like you down with me, it'll still be worth it." My chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of someone familiar. "Lily, my grandma saw you," a voice called. "She told me to tell you dinner's ready. She made your favorite chicken stew. You want to eat chicken or rot in jail?" It was Ryan, my neighbor. Not a bad guy really, just always hanging around with the wrong crowd. When he saw what was happening, he hesitated, then stepped forward to try talking the leader down. "Hey man, enough. Let's not." But before he could finish, the leader smacked him across the face. Then he lunged at me again. Ryan grabbed him from behind, shouting, "Lily, run!" The others immediately swarmed around him. I turned and saw Jacob behind me, barely conscious, slumped against the wall. I tried to lift him onto my back, but I could only take one shaky step before we both stumbled and fell. The group of guys just stood there laughing, watching us like predators playing with their prey. Jacob stirred at the impact, eyes half opening. He saw me, disheveled, trembling, my clothes torn, and clawed weakly at the ground, his nails scraping until his fingers bled. Just then the sound of sirens cut through the night. The police arrived in time. Later I found out what had happened. Those guys had been holding a grudge against Jacob for a while. They didn't like the way he carried himself, the way he acted untouchable. The leader had tried offering him a cigarette earlier, pretending to be friendly. Jacob, already in a foul mood, had brushed him off, muttering that even talking to them was a waste of time. That was all it took to set them off. They were all arrested and reprimanded. Jacob had a mild concussion. When he was half awake in the hospital, he wouldn't let go of my hand. That was when his father arrived. Mr. Lee, tall, neatly dressed in pale casual clothes, still carried the air of a businessman. He smiled politely, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that made you straighten your posture without realizing it. He stood by the bed for a while, looking down at his son's head wrapped thickly in bandages, his brow tightening. Then he turned to me. "You're Lily, right?" I nodded. "My son's mother left when he was little," he said. "Now that he's in this condition, he needs someone to take care of him. I hope you can stay by his side for a while. Whatever conditions you want, just say the word." It sounded less like a request and more like a business deal. I looked at Jacob lying there. Mother gone, father absent, broken in ways he'd never admit. He'd helped me before. Maybe this was me returning the favor. "I'll stay," I said softly. "I'll take care of him until he's better. No conditions." Mr. Lee adjusted the jade bracelet on his wrist and gave a small nod. "Good." That was all he said before leaving. And just like that, somehow Jacob and I made up. After things settled, he explained again that the bracelet really was something he picked out himself. Something only for me. Then, as if nothing had happened, he wrapped his arms around me and said in a mock whiny tone, "So tell me, who's been walking you home these days? Don't tell me it's still that class rep. I've seen him. Every time I wait behind that big tree near your street, I spot him with you. Your boyfriend's not that easy to fool, you know?" He was pouting, but there was laughter in his eyes. I turned to him and said plainly, "You're the one hiding behind the tree." Jacob pressed his face against my neck, murmuring, "Don't bother your class rep anymore, okay? Might hurt his grades. Let your boyfriend handle it." I hesitated, then nodded. "All right." He froze for a second, then tightened his arms around me, his breath warm against my skin. He kissed my neck, then my cheek, and finally my lips. It was the first time we'd kissed in nearly 2 months. And in the final stretch before college entrance exams, we began acting like a real couple again. But something about Jacob felt different. There was always a hint of sadness in Jacob's eyes, even during our happiest moments. Like that time we took a picture at the very top of the Ferris wheel. In the first shot, he had his cheek pressed against mine, smiling so brightly it looked like sunlight itself. But in the next, his eyes had already dimmed, a thin layer of melancholy clouding over them. I noticed every detail. Was he regretting something? Regretting that he wasn't doing these things with her instead? It didn't matter. We'd said it from the start. We'd break up after graduation. I had already prepared myself for that ending. From the airplane window, as the ground slowly shrank beneath me, I couldn't understand why Jacob still tried to hold on. He and Sophie were already like that, entangled, inseparable. Maybe this was just withdrawal. Even people grow attached to pets after spending enough time together. He'd move on eventually, and so would I. When college entrance exam results came out, Capital University reached out to invite me to apply. Thanks to Charles's recommendation and the information he'd shared before, I submitted my application to the Artificial Intelligence program. Back in junior year during the Physics Olympiad, Charles and I had talked briefly about our interests. We both loved the field. It felt natural that we'd end up studying it. What I didn't expect was to see Jacob there. The day I arrived on campus to complete my registration, I spotted him at the freshman sign-in area. He wore a baseball cap pulled low over his face, but even so I recognized him instantly. I'd know that silhouette anywhere. "What are you doing here?" I asked quietly. "Isn't it obvious?" His tone was calm but firm. "I came to find you. You blocked me everywhere. Calls, texts, everything. So I figured if I can't reach you, I'll come to the one place I know you'll be." "What do you want, Jacob?" He met my eyes. "To make things right. Saying we'd break up after graduation. That was my mistake. I want to win you back." "Don't," I said softly. "I won't agree to that." The midday sun beat down on us, scorching, but somehow a chill radiated from where Jacob stood. Then Charles jogged over, waving. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Lily. Let's go. I'll take you to your dorm." He glanced curiously at the guy in the cap, whose face was mostly hidden by the brim. "And this is?" I forced a smile. "An old classmate from high school." "Oh really?" Charles said politely. "Small world. You go here too?" "Yeah," Jacob said flatly. Charles nodded, clearly sensing the tension but not pressing further. He handed me a bottle of water. "Come on, let's get you checked in." I picked up my bag and followed him. Before leaving, I turned back to Jacob. "I'm going now. Goodbye." He didn't respond. Didn't move either. Even after I'd walked all the way across the quad and looked back, he was still standing there in the sunlight, filtering through the trees, still and solitary. I thought that after that, things would finally end. That once he saw I was serious, he'd give up. But when my class held a small freshman welcome dinner, Jacob showed up again. That night, a sudden downpour hit. Everyone else left one by one until only 5 of us remained. There weren't enough seats in the car for all of us, and we were debating who should go first when out of nowhere, an umbrella appeared above my head. I looked up. It was him. All eyes turned toward Jacob. "Whoa." One of my classmates whispered, grinning. "Lily, is that your boyfriend?" "He's hot." Another said. "Does he go here?" I could feel my cheeks burning. "You guys go ahead. I'll wait." "All right then," they teased. "Handsome guy, take good care of our Lily." Okay. For once Jacob actually smiled. Just a small fleeting smile, but real. When they were gone, the rain kept coming down hard and relentless. "Cold?" he asked. And before I could answer, he slipped off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The scent of him, clean and familiar, wrapped around me, sending my heartbeat spiraling. "When are you going back?" I asked quietly. "Back where?" His voice was lazy, almost teasing. "Back to South City. Didn't you get into a school there? You haven't registered yet." He was silent for a beat, then chuckled softly. "You really don't pay attention to me, do you?" I got into the Institute of Technology. It's right next to your campus. I blinked. You what? With your grades? He smirked. Guess I got lucky. Maybe the admissions board flipped a coin. Then he leaned down so our eyes were level, his voice dropping to a whisper. Maybe it's just fate. Looks like I'm meant to stick around you. After that, Jacob was everywhere. Always within sight, yet never intrusive. He didn't text, didn't call, didn't ask to see me. But whenever I needed help, he was suddenly there. Like the day a cyclist nearly ran me over. He came out of nowhere, pulling me back just in time. Once he saw I was safe, he didn't say a word. He just turned and walked away into the crowd, vanishing as quietly as he'd come. My roommate couldn't help asking, "Did you two have a fight?" The way he looks at you like he's mad but also terrified. That's definitely a guy in love. I glanced over at Jacob standing in the distance, quietly kicking at a small rock. His expression caught somewhere between anger and hurt. If there's a misunderstanding, my roommate added, you should just talk it out. There's nothing that can't be explained. I took a deep breath and walked toward him, still unsure how to start. Before I could say anything, Jacob swung his backpack around to the front, unzipped it, and pulled out a fresh bouquet of flowers. For as long as I'd known him, he was the kind of guy allergic to anything romantic. And yet here he was doing something straight out of a cheesy teen movie. This was the same boy who used to roll his eyes at the idea of gifts, who once told me it was easier just to wire Sophie some money so she could buy what she wanted. Jacob, I asked quietly, does this mean you really like me? But deep down I was still scared. You're not trying to set some kind of time limit again, are you? I don't do love with deadlines. He looked at me for a long moment, then said softly, then we'll make it unlimited. I forced a small smile and came up with an excuse. There's a guy in my department who's been pursuing me. I think I might want to give him a chance. The lie felt heavy, clumsy. Before I could finish, Jacob tilted his head slightly, and I saw the red at the corners of his eyes. What's wrong? I asked. You were fine just a moment ago. It was the first time I'd ever seen him like that, quiet, vulnerable, on the verge of breaking. I froze, not knowing what to do. Just then, across the street, a few guys from the university basketball team walked by, laughing and talking loudly. One of them suddenly shouted, "Hey Lily, come watch my game tonight." It sounded like a half-joking confession. His teammates hooped and teased him immediately. Embarrassed, I turned my face away, only to catch Jacob's gaze from across the street. His eyes shifted toward the basketball player, then back to me, then to Charles. He smiled faintly, but the sadness was unmistakable. A single tear slipped down from the corner of his eye as he said, "So that's the type you like." And with that, he turned and walked away. This time he was gone for real. Jacob disappeared completely from my life. No matter where I went, near the lecture hall, across the street, or around the shopping district, I never saw him again. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. I eventually told Charles the first couldn't date him. I only saw him as a partner, someone I could collaborate with academically. He smiled easily, unbothered. "Don't let this affect our work together," he said. "It's fine. There are plenty of other girls chasing me anyway." The next time I saw Jacob, it was already winter. I'd come down with a fever and tested positive. I was in the campus clinic, sitting up weakly and reaching for a cup of water when he walked in. Without a word, he took the cup, slid a straw into it, and handed it to me. "Even sick like this," he muttered. "Your boyfriend isn't around to take care of you." I opened my mouth, but my voice came out cracked, barely recognizable. I gave up trying and instead typed on my phone. "He just stepped out. He'll be back soon." Jacob looked at the screen, his eyes lowering for a moment as if swallowing something heavy. Then he glanced back up at me. "You've lost weight," he said softly. "Whoever's taking care of you isn't doing a very good job." I tried to laugh but ended up coughing hard instead. Jacob immediately stiffened, his hands tightening into fists. He set down the fruit basket and flowers he'd brought, but didn't leave. He just sat beside me watching the four drip, his gaze fixed and restless. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. That's when my roommate Hannah Lynn came rushing in. "Lily, the advisor needs me to hand in a form right away. I have to run back. My friend Susan's on her way to watch over you. You'll be fine alone for a bit, right? Where's her boyfriend?" she asked herself aloud, glancing around, and then she noticed Jacob sitting there. Her eyes narrowed. Wait, isn't that the ex-boyfriend? The one who broke your heart? I winced. It was my own fault. I told my friends I'd broken up with Jacob because he'd fallen for someone else. Jacob's gaze flicked toward her sharply, as if reading between the lines. So, he said slowly, she doesn't have a boyfriend. Hannah frowned, ignored the question, and just gave me a quick wave before leaving. Jacob's lips curved upward slightly. Then I guess I'll take care of you myself. I turned away toward the window, pretending not to hear, but he kept talking, his voice steady and oddly reasonable. If your 3 roommates take turns looking after you, what if one of them catches it from you? That wouldn't be fair, would it? Final exams are coming up, Jacob said lightly. You don't want to ruin your roommates' study time, or risk their scholarships, right? He knew exactly how to strike where my heart was softest. The moment he saw me hesitate, he leaned closer and murmured, I'm different. You know, I'm healthy. Not obsessed with studying, just obsessed with you. And just like that, Jacob took over everything related to taking care of me. He even rented an apartment near campus so he could cook for me while I recovered. After I was discharged from the hospital, my coughing still hadn't gone away. To avoid disturbing my roommate's sleep, I moved into his apartment temporarily. I told myself that maybe after we broke up, he finally realized he really did love me and wanted to win me back. So naturally we found our way to each other again. No grand declarations, no promises, just a quiet understanding to move forward without bringing up the past. During summer break, we went back to our hometown together. Jacob took me to meet his old friends, and Ethan especially was thrilled to see us. Jacob had his arm draped proudly around my shoulders, wearing that smug grin like he just won some invisible competition. At one point, Ethan brought over a glass of wine and said dramatically, Hey sis-in-law, do me a favor. Yeah, be nice to him. I just want you two to stop fighting already. He flipped his hair theatrically. Last time when he thought you'd moved on to a new boyfriend, he went full self-destruct mode and dragged me along for it too. We both jumped off the pier and that bump on my head? Totally his fault. Ethan shot Jacob a look, then added, You know, the boss has changed a lot because of you. Back in high school, he actually hired tutors and studied like a maniac. If he didn't drop dead, he'd just keep going until he collapsed. In college, he started learning business from his dad. His own startup's up and running now, by the way. I turned to look at Jacob, stunned. I hadn't known any of that. Our eyes met across the table. He was laughing with his friends. But the moment he noticed me watching, he stood and walked over, sliding an arm around my shoulders. He asked casually, What were you two talking about? About you. About me, huh? His tone sharpened playfully. Ethan jumped up in a panic. Excuse me, I need to take a call. He scurried off like a guilty man. Jacob narrowed his eyes as he watched him go, then looked back at me. You two were gossiping about me, weren't you? No, I said. He pulled me tighter. Confess and I'll go easy on you. Stay silent and I'll have to punish you. What kind of punishment? I asked, half amused, half wary. His lips curved. A kiss. He was just leaning in when a blur of movement caught my eye. Before I could react, a splash of cold liquid hit Jacob's back. A glass of wine hurled straight at us. I stumbled back, but he turned immediately, shielding me. The wine soaked into his shirt instead of mine. When I looked up, I saw her. Sophie Lynn. Her usually flawless face was twisted with fury. Jacob shot to his feet, his expression dark. What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Sophie screamed. You're really asking that? You are ready to throw away our engagement because of her. Her words hit me like a thunderclap. Engagement. The world seemed to tilt. I'd always thought whatever was between them had ended long ago. That maybe it was just young love, or that they weren't right for each other. I never imagined there was a formal engagement involved. After that ugly scene, Jacob and I went back to the hotel. He kept explaining over and over that the so-called engagement had just been a joke between their families, something arranged by their parents when they were kids. He'd already told his father not to bring it up again, and his father had agreed. But I knew it wasn't that simple. Back then he had chased Sophie. The bouquet she rejected, he'd handed it to me instead. I'd been the one to walk toward him, not the other way around. And yet, after falling for him so deeply, I'd begun to care too much. Every time he smiled with me, I wondered, was he smiling because of me, or because I reminded him of her? Jacob cupped my face, his voice low and patient, explaining again and again. I didn't answer. He finally leaned down and kissed me. It felt like all the air in my chest exploded. I didn't understand why. Maybe it was anger, maybe confusion, but I kissed him back hard, almost desperate. In the heat of it, I grabbed his wrists, pinning him down, taking control completely. When it was over, I tossed a piece of clothing over him carelessly, like a scoundrel too proud to show remorse. But even then, in his weary, shadowed eyes, there was still something unresolved, something he couldn't quite let go of. The fire in his eyes hadn't even had a chance to ignite before I snuffed it out. I casually picked up the cigarette from the bedside table, mimicking the way he did it, and placed it between my lips. When I tried to light it, Jacob frowned. "Do you even know how to smoke?" I didn't answer. I took a light drag. The smoke hit my throat instantly, and I coughed until my eyes watered. He looked at me strangely. "What's wrong? You were fine just a minute ago." I forced a small smile. "How did it feel tonight?" "Satisfied." The corner of his mouth curved slightly as if he were replaying the memory. I smiled too, though mine was faint, brittle. "You know," I said quietly, "I could treat someone else the same way I treat you." The smile fell from his face, his expression hardened, his jaw clenched. "Lily, if you ever try that with someone else, we die together, both of us." "Is that really necessary?" I asked, watching the ember at the tip of the cigarette slowly burn down. "You don't even like me that much?" Jacob yanked loose the tie I'd used to bind his wrists, his voice low and sharp. "I told you it has nothing to do with Sophie. Don't you believe me?" "Why should I?" I said coldly. "That bouquet of flowers, wasn't it for her? The name Lily on that card wasn't for me. It was for her. And at the graduation party, the way you two looked at each other in the hallway, all soft and longing." I let out a bitter laugh, surprised. "I knew all of it." He froze for a second. "So that's why you broke up with me after graduation." I flicked the ash off the cigarette without answering. He started pulling his clothes back on, frustration tightening his voice. "I can explain. It was just a stupid game. I lost, and the punishment was to confess to her. That card wasn't even written by me. The handwriting's awful. It was Ethan's. And that night in the hallway, she only said she knew where you were. That's the only reason I looked at her." "That's your explanation?" I said softly. "Then why weren't you happy when you were with me? You weren't happy on the Ferris wheel. You weren't happy camping. Not even when we went boating. You can't deny it, Jacob." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo, one I'd taken that day. His face was shadowed, his eyes distant, far away. "Look at yourself. You were sitting next to me, but you looked like you'd rather be anywhere else. What were you thinking about then?" He stared at the picture, then met my eyes, his gaze locking onto mine. "I was thinking about how not to lose you," he said quietly. "I was scared you'd end up like my mom, that you'd look down on me the way she looked down on my dad." That made me pause. Jacob's mother had been a brilliant engineer, a woman drawn to his father's charm and looks, but eventually disgusted by his shallow lifestyle, by the smell of whiskey and business dinners. She'd left the country without looking back. It was as if Jacob had grown up tending to a fragile orchid, only to watch someone else crush it with ashes from a cigarette. He'd been terrified from the very beginning that I would do the same to him. He stepped closer, his voice trembling slightly. "You won't, right? You won't break up with me just because I'm not as smart as you, because we don't talk about the same things. You don't have to like someone like Charles, do you?" He was waiting for something. "Promise, maybe." I hesitated, then gave a faint, uncertain nod. Things suddenly felt different. Maybe not the way I'd imagined, but different. Later, Jacob took me to meet his father in a private dining room. When we walked in, I froze. Sophie was there too, along with both of Jacob's parents. I instinctively tried to pull my hand out of his, but he held on tighter. "Dad," Jacob said flatly, "didn't you say this was just a family dinner? Why is there someone else here?" His father smiled, calm and polished. "Just happened to run into Mr. Lin and Mrs. Chun. I've watched their daughter grow up. What's the harm in sharing a meal together?" Then turning toward me, he made the introductions. This is my son's girlfriend, Lily Chun. Lily, this is Mr. Lin, Mrs. Chun, and their daughter, Sophie. I believe you two went to the same high school, didn't you? Sophie crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. Lily Chun, the school's little genius, right? Didn't you already dump Jacob? What? Couldn't find anyone better in the city, so you came back to chew on old grass. Jacob's expression darkened instantly. Sophie, if you can't speak like a normal person, don't speak at all. So what if she's the one who wanted to come back? Sophie turned toward his father, eyes sharp. Mr. Lee, didn't you say Jacob and I were engaged? Wasn't that already settled? Mr. Lee smiled thinly, the same practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. Young people's relationships aren't for me to decide. That was just a joke back then. Mr. and Mrs. Lin's faces immediately soured. Sophie, caught between embarrassment and anger, clenched her fists. Forget it. The truth was Sophie Lin didn't love Jacob that much, not enough to make him irreplaceable. She had a long line of admirers. Men followed her everywhere she went. What she couldn't stand was me surpassing her. Aside from academics, she believed she outshone me in every possible way. When her parents finally dragged her out of the private room, her expression was still filled with indignation. That left only three of us: Jacob, his father, and me. Mr. Lee's polished calm never faltered, though I could sense the shrewd calculation behind his smile. Lily, he began smoothly, you know Jacob is my only son. I've raised him alone all these years, done the best I could. Maybe he'll never be the kind of elite professional you picture for yourself. More likely, he'll end up a businessman, one who smells of money instead of books. Have you thought about that? He spoke plainly as if testing me. It was obvious he feared history repeating itself, that Jacob and I would end up like his own failed marriage. I glanced at Jacob. I haven't really thought that far ahead, I said softly. Jacob's a good person. Jacob cleared his throat with a faint smirk. Come on, Dad. I'm not that bad. At least I managed to get into college. Can you say the same? His father's face darkened instantly. Jacob grinned undeterred. Why don't we order food now? I'm starving, and the more you talk, the hungrier I get. That was his clever way of diffusing tension, the same mix of defiance and humor that somehow made people relent. Later, Jacob came up with another brilliant idea to shorten the gap between our worlds. He decided to become one of my project's investors. Whatever my research group worked on, he poured money into it. That way, no matter how annoyed I might get with him, I could never be too harsh. Not when our funding depended on him. Whenever I had to request additional funds, I had no choice but to go through him. Like that one night, the night he insisted I wear the ridiculous cat ears and bunny tail. You're insufferable, I muttered, glaring at him. What was that? He teased, narrowing his eyes. Did you just call me insufferable? I sighed, knowing how this game went. Leaning close, I whispered obediently. No, I said you're handsome. So handsome, I never get tired of looking at you. Jacob chuckled lowly, rubbing one of the cat ears between his fingers. Good girl.